also known as Xena. Welcome to the LIVETRU podcast. You won't find BS and fluff here, just honest, raw, no-holds-barred discussions that support rising and living true to your highest self. Hello, Carolyn. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know my audience will appreciate hearing about your work, and you are an empowerment coach, and provide us with, I'm sure, a plethora of juicy tidbits. We became acquainted in 2020, just last year, and I've been very impressed with your perspective and your wisdom. We've exchanged thoughts on a number of subjects, and I find that we are definitely kindred spirits. You have a way, as you say, of holding space for someone. Yet it goes beyond that. You pegged me at my core so much that I was floored. You hit it right on the head, and frankly, I was quite shocked that you could see where the things that I couldn't see, and just put some pieces together for me that I couldn't at the time. So I really appreciate that. So this is why I wanted you to be here as one of my first guests, because it's really through your spirit that I could confidently be in the spot that I'm in now. And I honor you for that. And I want to impress on my audience what a true gem and wealth of wisdom that we have in our midst right now. Carolyn, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be one of your first guests. It's really a privilege and an honor. So thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you as well. Please tell us as much about yourself as you'd like, and specifically how you came into the work that you do so well.
Okay. Well, I actually moved to Phoenix, Arizona in 1975. I was a single parent of 3 small children, 4, 5, and 9 years old, and I knew no one in Arizona. So I had to really carve my way into, the business world, because I was newly divorced, and I really saw that it was difficult. The only training I had was high school, and so I had my secretarial degree. I could be a secretary. That was about it. And when I went to school in the 60s, it was you were either a teacher, a secretary, or a nurse. That was about the extent of what women were doing in those days. And so I chose secretary. And I started working in Arizona for an electronics company. And I saw that it would take me a long time to get where I wanted to go, to be able to really support my children and, pay the rent and things like that. So I found this course that I took, and I saw the real truth about who I am, and what I was here to do, which was to really empower, as I thought in the beginning, women, because they say we teach what we most need to learn. And I definitely needed to be empowered, because I was not empowered by my father or my brothers or my husband. And I didn't know many men at all that were empowering. And so I started out on this crusade, so to speak, to empower women. And I started teaching women's empowerment courses. As they were like elective courses at the community college level. And so people would come to my empowerment classes, and then I would start kind of coaching them or working with them one-on-one. And I saw that I could eventually, not right away, but I saw that I could make a business out of that I could actually, charge people for coaching. But this was way before life coaching was even thought about. No one knew what life coaching was. The only coaches were sports coaches, So I didn't call myself a coach in the beginning. I just said I was an empowerment. I just empowered people. And by empowerment, I meant finding the inner golden heart of who people really are, and speaking to that, because everyone has that center within them. But most people, I found, at least in my generation and the generations right below me, which was my daughter and her all of her friends, they really weren't empowered by their parents and by their siblings or their people around them. So I saw a real niche, and I started working with women, and then eventually I saw that in order to empower women, I needed to also empower the men that loved them and that they loved. So I started doing couples empowerment coaching. And couples would come to me when they were out of communication with each other, or when something was going awry in their relationship or in their marriage. And they would come for some coaching, some advice. And I really didn't give advice. I really went to the heart of, where they were each coming from and where they were out of communication. And I have this kind of natural ability to hone in and hear what people are saying underneath what they're really saying, the words that they say. I can tap into their feeling and their inner essence, and really help people to move forward in their personal life, in their businesses. And I started doing business coaching because I saw the same thing that was missing in business, that was missing in personal life, it was also missing in businesses. So I started working with entrepreneurs and executives and small business owners, and it just has taken off since then.
Yeah, that when you told me about how when you started this, it sure wasn't a thing in the 70s. Um,
No, not
I think you kind of invented the idea, so
well
go ahead.
for that, but I don't think I invented it, but I certainly was one of the forerunners. I really was. I called myself a dinosaur of the Enlightenment age.
Yeah, the plethora of experience that you have coming to the table right now. I know my interactions with you when it became more on a personal level, because you and I are friends now. Um, and I started sharing a little bit, boy, oh boy, um, you really were able to, just like you said, hone in on what it is, I guess, that I needed. I don't know how you'd put it, but what I needed and just um, needed to hear, you know,
Mhm.
that missing piece in that I needed, and so I can attest to your abilities there. um,
Well, most people don't realize that they have a purpose for everything they do and everything they say. There's something driving them. And when people are unconscious to what that is that's motivating them to behave a certain way or to act a certain way or to, be how they're being, when people don't know what it is that's driving them, they have no control over their life. And when they can see what's important to them, what really matters to them, what they really want in life, and what their purpose here is. Like, what is your purpose? And when people find out what they're here for, then they realize that maybe what they've been doing for their business or their job or in their relationships, maybe that isn't what's best for them. So when they get clear, I call my one of my business partners calls me the goddess of clarity, because whenever he's confused or doesn't know what to do, which way to go, or he always comes to me for clarity coaching. And I think that really is what I do best, is see how have people get clear about what's important to them, what really matters, what they really want, and what purpose they are putting their energy towards, that will make a difference in their future and in their current life right now, in their present and in their future life. So it really does turn their life around once they get clear.
yeah, otherwise we're just kind of going with the flow of everyone else's agendas and just of life, and
Hmm.
maneuvering our own path, and just to have that, as you say, clarity. I had a moment of clarity when I was talking with you uh, recently, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly it. Like, I knew
Hmm.
purpose, but that one missing piece you gave me was just it was empowering, very empowering, matter of fact.
It opens up things for people where they once they see things they've never seen before, then it opens up a whole new way of looking at life.
Yeah, yeah, I could totally see that. Since you have been in this work for so long, can you speak to how the climate has changed in regards to your clients? What flux of patterns, kind of maybe I'm talking about, have changed because you've been in this for so long, with just the decades that have gone by of what people's needs were, or what their um,
Hmm.
level has been. If that makes
Well, there's no doubt the world has changed. The world has changed enormously since I started this coaching back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, because back then we were so, I'm going to use the word unconscious. And myself included, I was just going along with life and, not realizing that I could really impact the whole world. I could make a difference in the world, which is what, if someone asked me what I wanted to do with my life back then, I would have said, well, I want to get married. I want to have children. I want, I just want to be a good mom. And, you know, I, I wasn't thinking um, of the impact that I could make in the world, but I would say things like, I want to leave the world a better place than I found it in. And I think a lot of people feel that way. When I talk to people, they they even back then and now, people really want to make a difference in the world. They want to leave a legacy, or they want to make a difference and impact the future of the world and the way that like shift the way things are going and really make a difference. And so when people think they don't have any power to make a difference, then they just go along with the flow and they don't really do anything or create something. And in life, we're either creating or consuming. We're either making something happen or we're consuming what someone else has already created.
That's such a good point right there. Yeah.
So I like to help people create what they want. And when we realize that there's no limit to what a human being can create, there's no limit to human aptitude. We have the aptitude to create whatever it is we set our sights on. Whatever we want to have happen, we can make happen. And we do that out of our intention and our commitment and of creating a purpose that's bigger than ourselves, something to pull us into the future and say, I want to make this change in education, or I want to make this change in healthcare, or I want to make this change in government, or whatever it is. It doesn't really matter. It's whatever is exciting for you, whatever you see that would light your fire, so to speak, or warm your heart and really make you feel like life's worth living. It's worth getting up for in the morning, and it's worth taking on something that's bigger than you are, a challenge that calls you forth. And that's what I help people see, as that opportunity for them, whatever it is.
Yeah, there's a big difference between just going through the motions in life and going to your 9 to 5 that people hate usually. And I know this because I've never really worked a 9 to 5 for any period of time. I just always instinctively knew it wasn't for me. But I have been in office settings for various reasons, and it's always the same complaints. Like he's like, "Oh, I can't wait till it's Friday," and "Oh, it's Monday," and I'm just thinking to myself, why in the world do you continue to do something that you hate? You obviously hate, and they're all the same way, and they all laugh about it. And I realize that they don't even see another way to do something. It's like
Hmm.
they're in this system, which really is a slave system. Let's face it, and they don't even realize they're in a slave system, and they hate it, and it brings them no satisfaction except for maybe a couple days on the weekend, maybe, that they can shove in everything that can't even shove in everything that they want. But it's such a very hollow life, and I've never I've never got caught up in that. But what I wanted to ask you before I forget is, in working with people now, do you see that it's kind of easier? We talked about the awareness. Do you feel like it's easier to work with people and to get them? You don't get them to do anything, but just to work with them and help them and guide them. And maybe what I'm talking about is, are you working on a higher level now with general people?
Mhm. Well, the only people that come to me are the people that are already looking for higher consciousness. They're already someone. They're searching. They want something that they can't find on their own, or they haven't been able to find on their own. So they come to me. I always say all my clients are divinely guided to me. They're sent to me from the universe, because I don't advertise my work. I've never, in all the years I've been coaching, which is over 45 years now, I've never advertised my services, not once. And I do that on purpose, because I only want people that want to work with me. People that are referred to me, people that, find me however they do. But those are the people that I want to work with, the people that are up to something in life, the people that really are already of higher consciousness, and they really want to get, their life in order and get it to the place where it's a miracle, right? Like, your life is exciting and fun, and you can't wait to get up in the morning, because you're fulfilling your life purpose.
And so are
And
you.
so, yes, people, I think, but all people have grown. Yes, yes, yeah. And and yes, people are in a different space now than they were 20 years ago, or even 5 years ago, 6 years ago. We've changed a lot as a community, as a world. We're waking up, we're growing up, we're saying, wait a minute, there's more to life than 9 to 5, and there's more to life than this system, and it's not all about the money. Because people keep their jobs because they need the money to support their families, most likely, and or they like their lifestyle that they've created for themselves. But if it doesn't make your heart sing, and if it's not something that lights you up, then maybe there's another path, for you.
Yeah, choices, right? We actually have choices. uh, it's amazing, what possibilities are out there when you open your mind up, that, oh wow, I can do that.
Hmm.
That's a possibility for me. And then
Yeah,
and then you have to then get past the possible barrier of, am I worth it? The personal value. Am I worth it? Do I deserve this? Right? And that's
yeah,
sometimes it's a filter that holds us back. Um, Being that my brand is Live True, and my goal is to widen people's toolbox in regards to how they can live more true to themselves on all levels, really. I wanted to touch on your perspective of congruence of beliefs and actions, essentially describing integrity. We live in a world today where people seem to be quite disconnected from themselves, as we're kind of mentioning here. Even though I know this is by design, there's a bigger system at play here that is making that happen. In general, there's a lack of critical thinking to even discern what people truly believe, or who they are, as we've been mentioning. Therefore, their actions are not truly born from discernment. And discernment is the key to being able to really dig deep and to figure out who you are, what you believe, and why you're here. Essentially, uh, what it results in not doing that is following the crowd, and their mind just being hijacked is really what it comes down to. None of us are immune to this, by the way. We've maybe all been in that position at some point. It's a matter of becoming, though, more introspective and aware, which takes deliberate attention. What's your input on this as far as the personal integrity, and what it takes for really the masses? Because our audience here is generally what we call more awake, what we
Hmm.
call, and as awake as I am, the conversations that I've had with you have just propelled me forward. So, what is your kind of take on all of that?
Well, I would say that the most important thing is becoming aware of ourself. Self awareness is really literally the key to everything. If you are aware of yourself and how you operate in life, what has you do the things you do, say the things you say, and be the way you are, what's running you, and it takes a lot of, like you were saying, introspection to look inside and say, what is really running the show here? What's making me do the things I do, and how come I'm on autopilot, all the time? And has my mind been hijacked? That's really a good question, because we don't always um, discern, is a good word, to discern what's best for us at any given moment in time. And sometimes, people will be a certain way with a family member or a friend, and after they leave the situation, they go, "Geez, I really shouldn't have said what I said," or "Geez, I wish I'd you know, been a little more tactful," or "I wish I hadn't gotten into that argument with, my brother-in-law," or whatever, and yet if you stop and look at it after the fact, you can say, well, what is it that had me do that? What was I trying to prove in that moment? Who was I trying to be? Who was I trying to, like, impress? Or what was I trying to be right about? And argue. When you arguing, you're trying to be right about something and make someone else wrong. And when we're coming from there, it's almost always a no-win for you. When you get on some kind of a position about something, then it's almost always a lose-lose. And if we really do want to operate from integrity in our life, then we want to look at what's a win-win here. What's going to make me feel good, and what's going to make the person I'm interacting with feel good, and how are we both going to come out of this discussion or conversation uh, winning at what's most important to us, which is probably our relationship, our friendship, our relationship, our marriage, whatever it is, but it takes some real work to do that self-awareness that I'm speaking of, to actually become aware of what drives you, what drives your actions, and, what's running the show.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. That takes a lot of courage and a lot of humility, and to dig deep into the box of who am I, that
Hmm.
a lot of people can't do that. And I'm not saying I am real good at it, but one thing that hasn't been my motivation, I just wanted to mention another perspective, is that it's not, I haven't necessarily dug deep for my relationships. What drives me in doing the shadow work and digging deep into myself is the inner pain. I want to go away. And
Hmm.
I want to be able to present myself to the world the way that, for the reason I came here. And those filters that were in the way for so long, and that are still are up, I'm sure, to some of them to some extent, didn't allow me to be who I was, because of fear, anxiety, whatever issues were. And so I want so badly to do well and to be who I really am, regardless of whether anyone likes it or not, to be honest. But it turns out that who I am is really a great person, and it was all those filters and all of that anger and pain that made me not such a great person. And
Right.
when I started getting all that out, then I started to realize my internet's unstable. I started to realize, or have more reason to like myself, and
Hmm.
actions that I was doing, sometimes repeatedly, that brought me pain and misery to myself or others. I don't do anymore. Just because of doing the inner work. So I think a person's motivation, I bet you they're all different. For me, that's what mine was. and still is. And now I feel like I really have something to present. I'm finally, getting into a midlife now, and finally getting into being able to value, real value to the world. I feel like this whole, life up till now has been a training ground, you know.
Well, it is, and it hasn't finished. I think we're always learning the rest of our life. I've gone through many metamorphoses myself, and the clients that I've had a long time and worked with over the years have grown with me. Like I've grown with my clients, and my clients have grown with me. And so I really want to acknowledge you, Terry. I want to acknowledge you for all the work you've done on yourself. Oftentimes we forget to acknowledge ourselves. And it's important that you acknowledge the work that you've done on yourself to get you to where you are right now. And you're not finished working. I say we're never finished because there's always more. There's always higher and higher and higher consciousness to get to. And so, but we want to acknowledge ourselves along the way and say, it's really great what you've done, and your commitment to your personal growth and development. Like you're developing yourself as a human being, and that does take courage, and it does take commitment, and it does take paying attention how you're being, when you're with other people and when you're by yourself. Like who are you when you're alone? That's the integrity you're speaking of too, is what do you do when no one's watching?
Right.
you know
Uh, Thank you for that. I do acknowledge my progress for sure, and I know that the world is going to benefit. So it's kind of like in the airplanes, they tell you put your mask on yourself,
hmm
and then you can help others. And I stand by that. I take care of myself first. I really do, and only then can I have something of real value to give away. And I think so many people get caught up in helping everybody else, and
hmm
they're not, for some reason. I'm sure there's many reasons why they're not paying attention to themselves, and that's your first job. That
hmm
they're going to benefit from that. Anyone you come in contact is going to benefit from that. So I've just made that my priority in my life, whether it be physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, whatever. And and then you start to have an overflow, and then it starts really fun and really exciting. But I tell you, it's rough. It can be real rough. It is rough, not can be. It will be rough. So just get used to that, and be ready for that. It will be, and it's still going to be rough for me. But it's a lot. I'm a lot better at it, and I'm at a point now where there's a lot of stability. So um, yeah, I appreciate that acknowledgement for sure. So I want to ask you, so what does a typical session with you kind of look like? You and I've never discussed that. I know you do them sometimes in person, sometimes on the phone, but is there a typical, or what does it kind of look like?
Well, the thing that's typical about my sessions with people is that I don't prepare. I don't ever have an agenda. I go find out what's going on with the person that's across the table from me or the person that's on the other end of the phone. I want to find out what's going on with them. And always what surfaces is the thing that needs to get addressed that moment, that day, that session. So I think the key for me is to come not prepared with an agenda, but in communication with higher source. I always call in the higher consciousness before I have a session because I want that consciousness to speak through me. I don't want it to come from me. I want it to come through me. And that's why I don't consider myself a channel or anything like that. But I do feel like I can tap into higher consciousness that is available always. And when I tap into that for someone else, I find out what it is they need to hear and what is going on with them so that I can support them in moving from where they are that moment into what's next for them. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but I don't think I have a quote unquote typical session because every session is individualized with whoever it is that comes to me. And people seem to know if they would get value out of having sitting with me for an hour, you know, and getting to the root of something that's troubling them or an issue they have or something that they would like some feedback on or some support in, because given to left to our own devices, it's hard for us to really coach ourselves, because we have patterns in our head that keep running, and so it's difficult for us to separate ourselves from our programming, so to speak. And that's what a good coach does. A good coach can tell you when you're running a program or when you're, not being true to what's really there for you. And that's what I try to do in every session is, get to the heart of the matter with people.
The coaching part is key. Every coach needs a coach, and no matter
Yes,
what you're doing,
yes.
every successful person has one. Trust me.
I have
Um,
several.
yeah. So I totally agree with that. It is because we're always on this journey. We're always, hopefully, well, no matter what, we're on a journey. But those of us
Yes,
trying to, make inroads into who we are and give value to the world, you're going to need guidance. And there's no matter what level that you're talking about or what aspect of your life, there's always somebody that's a little bit ahead of you, or there's somebody that can just sit and hold space, which you do so well.
hmm
Um, that interaction with others in that regard, we need each other. We can't live in a
yeah,
vacuum, really, right? So that is very valuable. So it sounds like your sessions are really fluid. They're and I like that about you, because we're the same in that regard. I also don't rely on I certainly don't channel. I don't do anything like that. But I've always been tapped into my higher self. Not
hmm
that's what I was doing, but just opening myself up to this higher consciousness, and I've gotten much better at learning how to listen, and I think
hmm
part of it too is knowing that the messages are coming through all the time, but are
exactly.
you speak the language, right? So can you speak
Yeah.
a little bit?
Well, like exactly what you said, Terry, the more we practice that, the better we get at it. The more that we listen to that higher consciousness is, which is truly what you said, our higher self. Each of us has a higher self, and that it speaks to us all the time. When I was young, there was it was like Jiminy Cricket, that little conscience on your shoulder, you know, because there's the conscience that's telling you what's right from wrong or good from bad, and what to do or what not to do. And then there's the other side, the little devil that wants to be mischievous and get you in trouble, and so we have all these voices in our head that are always talking to us, but we have to be able to discern what is our truest higher self, so that we really do connect to source energy, to higher consciousness energy. And when we do that, the more that we do it, the more we practice it, the better we get at it. And I used to think it had to be some kind of regular meditation and, all this, formal way to, but it's not. It's just being with yourself in the quiet. In the morning before I get out of bed, I connect with my higher self and, want to be the best that I can be that day with whoever comes into my space, and wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, I want to bring forth the best of who I am always. And, the more that I bring that into existence, the better I get at being a coach and being a mom and a grandma and a great grandma, and being with people that I love and care about. and bringing joy into the people's lives around me.
Yeah, I think this is the time, more than ever, that people are becoming more aware that they're ready to reach these
Mhm.
higher levels, and even just of awareness. Um,
Yeah,
so you're in a perfect spot, having so much experience with helping people along this way, this journey, and I'm honored to be your friend at this point and to sit in front of
likewise.
at any time that we get to sit in front of each other, which is quite often nowadays, because I really value what you can see, and just the way that you deliver is just very humble, and non-threatening, and it just works. So,
Thank you, Terry. I appreciate that.
so if
And
anyone, go ahead.
thank you for having me, giving me this opportunity to meet your audience and to be available. So I appreciate that a lot.
Absolutely. If anyone wanted to get a hold of you to do some coaching, perhaps, how would they?
Hmm.
I know you don't advertise, so
I don't have a website. I do have a Telegram channel now, thanks to you. I'm on Telegram. I have an email address and I have a phone number. And if people want me, they can call me or text me. I can give my phone number here, or you can post it on whatever. I don't mind putting my phone number out in public. I have business cards, but that's about it. So I can give it to you now, or you can put it up however you want to do that.
we'll do both. Go ahead, and you can, if anyone wants to write it down, your email address and your phone number, then we'll also put that information in the show notes.
Okay, so my name's Carolyn King, and it's spelled Caroline, like Caroline. Last name King, King. My email address is cking at wccamerica.com. And my phone number is area code 602-329-9308.
Awesome. And you're in the Phoenix area. You're in the Valley.
I am. And I do in-person sessions. I prefer in-person with couples because once I get to meet both, I read people's energy when they're together and how they interact with each other. So it's just easier for me to meet in person with couples. Um, but I also will do phone coaching for people that are out of state because I have a lot of clients out of state. It's just that people that are in Phoenix, I figure, why not meet in person if we can? I like to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the same way. If I'm going to coach somebody, or even just having a conversation, I would much rather do it in person than on,
Hmm.
because I can also get that energy in my uh,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely get that read,
Yeah.
unspoken stuff that I'm just now really tapping into, and not just tapping into, but really starting to decode. I'm finding that I'm
Hmm.
decode that. So it's fascinating. Anybody that wants to propel themselves forward and find out who they are, have a little guidance there, and just do the thing about life coaching and empowerment coaching, and even the coaching that I do is we're not we're not segmented. Our lives are not little in segments. So if I might coach somebody on eating psychology, um, mind, body, nutrition, that kind of thing, what we work on is not just what you're eating. We work on a lot of other things that just happen to focus on eating. So your whole life gets touched on. Your whole It's kind of
Hmm.
fact, right? So
Yeah.
working with people, it's going to change your work. It's going to change your relationships. It's going to change the way you kind of think. Once you change your awareness, um, it's just magic from there. So
Yeah.
excellent. Well, thank you so much, Carolyn. I really
Yeah.
appreciate the time that you've taken, and I'm sure I'm going to see you soon. So um, we will put your information in the show notes, and we wish you well.
Thank you so much.